ಕಾಮ್ರೇಡ್ ಸೂರ್ಯನಾರಾಯಣ್ ರಾವ್ ಅವರು ಶ್ರಮಿಕರ ಧ್ವನಿ ಎಂದು ಸಿಐಟಿಯು ಅಖಿಲ ಭಾರತ ಪ್ರಧಾನ ಕಾರ್ಯದರ್ಶಿ ತಪನ್ ಸೇನ್ ಶ್ಲಾಘಿಸಿದರು. ಕಾಮ್ರೇಡ್ ಸೂರ್ಯನಾರಾಯಣ್ ರಾವ್ ಅವರ ಜನ್ಮಶತಮಾನೋತ್ಸವ ಪ್ರಯುಕ್ತ ನಡೆದ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾರ್ಮಿಕ ಚಳುವಳಿಯ ಪಾತ್ರ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಮಟ್ಟದ ವಿಚಾರ ಸಂಕಿರಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಉದ್ಘಾಟಿಸಿ ಮಾತನಾಡಿದರು.
Comrade Suryanarayan Rao used to stand for. I am telling this out of my personal experience as well. He was much senior to me as a trade union activist. I am telling my experience. Sometimes his spirit of militance and uncompromising approach or basic issues pertaining to the contradiction between the labor and capital. The ideology Comrade Suryanarayan Rao used to represent premised on that basic ideological understanding. Sometimes as a trade union activist working along with Comrade Suryanarayan Rao, both at national committees and also sometimes I used to visit Karnataka some program. There are occasions of quarrels also. He used to. He has got that affection as well as that right on us. He used to sometimes rebuke us. And that reflects his spirit. And that spirit is governed by his commitment to fight a system while aiming it to finally uproot the system, change the system. And that was the basic foundation of the ideology on which Shuri started his role in the working class movement. I think that legacy in today's situation needs to be carried forward with much more determination and commitment. Because right at this moment, the challenges are much more brutal. Whatever we found in the last Lok Sabha election, I don't think there is any ground of complacency. With much brutality, with much forwarded desperateness, the kind of onslaught capital is bringing upon the people of the country through their agents sitting in the governance. I think legacy of Comrade Shuri, of a militant struggle, united struggle, and not only struggle on the direct issues facing the working class, but also the whole policy structure behind those issues. These has to be taken up, and I think through that only we can continue, we can give justice, make justice to the glorious legacy of Comrade Suryanarayan Rao in Indian trade union movement and in the movement of Karnataka in particular. I've been told that a seminar is also will be held now on the issue of the role of labor movement in development of Karnataka. No doubt, at present juncture, it is a very useful subject. I am not going into that issue. Our comrades are here. Comrade Janashakthi is also here. He will be presenting the main paper. I am not entering into that subject. Particularly in Karnataka context, all details are known better than our comrades here than me. I may be having an overall information on that or knowledge about that. But the point is that on that occasion, I like to present before you. And that again is linked with the legacy of Comrade Suryanarayan Rao. his role in the social movement as an individual developing to a person dealing with collectivity of the people. And thereafter, out of the experience of that collectivity, joining the working class movement and adapting the ideology, not only fight against exploitation, but also the exploitative system itself with the aim to uproot it. That is what is the legacy of Comrade Suri. He adapted that in a process. And that also, you all know, with all those details, that he was also actively took part in the freedom movement, the Quit India movement in particular, facing imprisonment, police atrocities. That important, I think that is important that he is participated in the freedom struggle, rather joined the collective movement of people against the British imperialism, and in that process he got involved in the working class movement. He got involved with the political forces who were committed to the working class ideology, the ideology of changing the exploitative system, and ultimately continued them. And in between, as it's interesting for you to know that in between he worked as a worker in a company, HL, for some period, but did not continue with that. So through a life experience, he adopted that ideology. And he developed himself and pursued that with all commitment. And that's why he became an example to us. He is also one of the founder member of CITU. And the birth of CITU in the trade union movement is also in such a turning point. Whether the working class movement will be on the class struggle or in the track of conciliation and collaboration. That was the debate at that material time, and CITU is born out of that debate to keep the working class movement on the track. There must be class struggle and, whenever required, uncompromising confrontation. And in that process, he played a very important role. That after CITU was born, it was alone, isolated. All others joined the bandwagon of another platform, led none else by the then Labour Minister Khadim Khan. But with patiently playing a role with a call of unity and struggle, which was the foundational slogan of CITU, within 6-7 years, by the mid-70s, and emergency also played a role in that. Immediately after emergency, all the trade unions in the country are compelled to came on the same platform in fighting against the industrial relations bill, brought by the then Janata government. And thereafter, it is a history of widening the unity of the trade union platform in the country, all central trade union. It was an historic reality in India that there are numerous trade union centers with different ideologies. Lot of heterogeneity is there. And yet, they could be brought on a single platform, on a common slogan, on common issues. And they continue, that platform continued to be consistently widened. And as on date, 10 central trade unions in the country are together. Almost all major central trade unions. except BMS. And even BMS joined that platform in 2009 and continued till 2014, till BJP came to power. Thereafter, they deserted. So, this is the history. The CI2 fighting on a basic ideological political issue about the goal of the trade union movement, the goal of the working class movement, the path they have to follow. On that, on the midst of debate, that platform has developed. CI2, ultimately, they could unite the entire trade union movement, almost, even on political issues, challenging the present corporate communal nexus in governance. Earlier, there are a lot of hesitation within that trade union platform to bring the political issues to the fore. We are trade union, we are not doing politics, like that kind of a thing. Although the whole attack on the working class are coming upon them as a political decision of the corporate class through their agents in governance. That was also sometimes debate in the trade union movement. And in that process of debate, the broad unanimity could be developed, and the joint platform of trade unions and federation has given a call that defeat this corporate communal nexus in governance. Otherwise, neither workers can be saved, nor the country can be saved. It will be pushed towards disaster. And in that process of unification, Comrade Suryanarayan Rao was one of the leading figures in the CI2 national leadership. Played a very important role. Laid this foundation of these united platform. Very important role here. And for that also, on his centenary celebration, we must recall, because that's a way before us. Now it is the question of talk of a lot of consensus is going on. There must be a overall consensus. But first important is there must be a consensus within the producing class. The workers and the other segment of producing class in the society, the peasantry and agricultural workers. The consensus must come within them about the path of the struggle at the present juncture. And on the foundation of that consensus between the basic production class, that will be the nucleus to which all other segments of society ought to be attracted by raising their issue. That's the goal we have to chart out, and that is the basic understanding of CI2, of which, again, building up that understanding, Comrade Suri played a very frontline role since from the inception of CI2. I still remember a lot of debates on many critical and controversial issues facing the trade union movement at different points of time. And the role of the contribution of Comrade Suryanarayan Rao in that. Today, on these occasions, I think these are the issues we must remember. We must recall. While we commit to carry on that our struggle, and while pledging for our commitment to carry forward the legacy of Comrade Suryanarayan Rao. Now, on the issue of that seminar, as I told, I will not be going into detail. I will not go on that subject, but a general understanding, I think it will be wrong if we don't place such issues there. the role of labor movement in the Karnataka's development, in the global development of value addition. It is the labor, rather in a wider sense, the producing class. They only create value and others are having a free lunch. Others are having a free lunch. They are creating the value. I think this must be the premise on which you must look into a thing. And in the process of development, sometimes some compulsion could be created by the producing class for a consensus across the classes for a developmental model. It is a ground level situation that was created. As after World War generated deepening crises of capitalism, and in the background of victory of socialism and its expansion, capitalism tried to find a retreat through Keynesianism, which basically argued for state's direct role in investment and creating infrastructure, with a general welfareist approach, with a general recognition of the people's basic rights. I had the occasion of glancing through Comrade Brijike's paper as president of the seminar while coming from airport. He also spoke about just in the process of freedom struggle, even before freedom, independence is achieved, a kind of consensus was developing that there must be an overall intervention in broadening the base of value addition, both in industries and also in agriculture. And for that, the important aspects of workers' rights like wages and other things and their related rights must be given due weightage. These are all products of the effort of the capitalism to come out of the crisis region, and in which the alternative route, the Keynesian route, whose political reflection was in social welfareism, that was a theory was sought to be produced. But that was an effort and successful effort in coming out of the crisis at that time. And around that kind of consensus on Indian soil that to develop in the process of freedom struggle. And during that period, from 2 years before our independence to say up to 3, 4, 5 years, all major laws relating to labor's rights, they came out, and Comrade Brijike's paper has clearly focused on that. It's the right thing, very correctly, during that period. But the Indian ruling class started officially taking over the reins. It was during that fluid period. The interest toward expanding labor rights started diminishing, and gradually minimizing labor cost to make profit came into being. We got the precedence. There are many major conflicts during that period, even in the working class movement. And all those are struggles. I must say, that was the struggle during the Surrealist period. We are much junior in the trade union movement, just entered the trade union movement during that time. Say in the mid-60s, early 70s, we are just newcomer in the trade union movement. Those period of struggles, not only in industries, but also important services like postal, telecom, major big struggle could develop. In insurance, our insurance leader is sitting over here. In that process, in the 70s, major nationalization of bank, insurance, coal, along with privy purse dismissal, all this came about. These are the time, I must say, the Swedish time, and this was the major force, whether anybody recognizes or not. The major motive force behind that is the struggle, militant struggle by the working class. And the entire period can easily be defined as Comrade Suryanarayan Rao's period. Entire period. And in Karnataka context, we saw many important battles, both in public sector, when public sector is expanding, even the expansion process of public sector, releasing from 1956 policy resolution, was a compulsion on Indian ruling class, given the very low industrial base inherited from the colonial days. Prior to independence, India used to produce steel less than 1 million, some 0.6 million steel production in a country like India. That grew towards, today it is more than 30 million. A network of public sector steel industry came up. There are a number of other public sector steel industry came up, public sector industries came about, and Karnataka is one of the area where it was concentrated. And it led to the famous strike in 80s, public sector workers, on their issues, combating an arrogant government, determined to foil that struggle. And in that process, even the broader platform of the public sector workers developed, CPSTU. It is out of that struggle. That was the history, and that's why I'm telling you that was Suri's period, which generated confidence among the working class, and at the same time contributed to a much broader spree of industrialization, not only in Karnataka, but throughout the country. That was Suri's period. He represented the main leadership of the working class movement at that material period. And we followed, we learned from those experiences. At least I can tell myself personally, because I was much younger and a newcomer to the trade union movement. I think that legacy to be recalled. With more today, that legacy is having more relevance today. I don't, other details, comrade, will go. But the thing is that it is the labor who creates the value, and other is having free lunch. I think that must be our premise. Whenever there is some compromise, some consciousness, that was forced upon otherwise a capitalist system, along with its political structure, it becomes a compulsion, and it was forced by the struggle of the producing class together with the then economic situation in the country. That's the dialectics and dynamics of the whole development, as I do believe. And out of that, a development took place, and militant struggle of the working class can only create occasion a better situation in broadening the purchasing power of the people, thereby broadening the base of the market, including the consumption pattern, and that can again generate a spree for further broadening of the industrial production. That is now the full position now of the ruling class is just to reverse, moving just in the opposite direction, only working on supply management. And thereby they are generating, not merely, I am not talking about the socialist economy, within the capitalist economy, the basic logic of the capitalist economy is getting thoroughly perverted. No more, it is a direct loot and expropriation of the natural resources. Nowadays, a simple example, the insolvency bankruptcy procedure legalized the pilferage of banks' money by the big corporates. Until now, the overall rate of realization, 27% of the total loan taken, which is public money, by the big corporates. They are legalizing a bunch of thieves who are otherwise socially respected as a big industrialist. That is what is the reality. And on the other hand, the new program of incentives, production incentive, capital expenditure incentive, and now in the current batch, it came as employment linked incentive. It is nothing but totally subsidizing the cost of production of some selected large corporate, both domestic and foreign. It will not generate a single employment to the same. That is going to happen. It is all through such perversion which is coming in the economic management because of the very systemic crisis. Now having its reflection in the running of the political system, and it is becoming increasingly authoritarian with a clear neo-fascistic orientation. And it is also having its reflection on the societal governance through these communal, divisive machinations on the society. It is the, again, movement of the producers class whose intervention tried to change this narrative and got some partial result in this Lok Sabha election, so that they could not make the government on their own single independent majority. But that does not change the situation in the least. So, comrade, I believe the material on the occasion of Comrade Suri's birth centenary, the important struggle he wrote, the experience of it is the struggle he led. One in public sector, that period he was the leader of RCRG. Two, in major multinational companies, the effort of wage rise, effort of wage to be linked with productivity generation. There was a tremendous effort at that material time. Along with the wage island theory that was being played by Mrs. Gandhi also. And at the same time, big MNCs and big industries are playing that, well, your wage must be linked with your productivity. Comrade Suri's leadership in fighting this trend, not to allow basic wages to be linked with productivity, has given rise to many historic agreements on incentives. I think that is also an important, and subsequently our Karnataka leaders has followed that path. And still it is continuing in many places where even during the COVID, some successful agreement could be reached. That is Suri's legacy. That is an uncompromisingly sticking to certain basic values while asserting the right of the working class. So these are the important, glorious examples with us. And on this, I believe that, comrade, we must collectively remember his great contribution. It is just not giving a slogan, comrade, comrade Suri, Lal Salam, Amar Rahe, etc., etc. It is articulating, knowing the whole history as it developed. And I think this seminar will help them to articulate in a much better way ground level experience, contribution of Suri in the same, his leadership period on the same, articulating the same thing on present situation, and leading an uncompromising battle in the mode of defiance and resistance. Because gradually, in a more arrogant form, the attack of expropriation is coming on the country. The national monetization pipeline, the mechanism for gifting the public asset free to the private guys, free. That is in the operation. Legalizing pilferage of financial sector money through IBC I have already told about. And these incentive, so-called incentive regime, which are being sought to be popularized and trying to snatch a social legitimacy. Against that, we have to fight and expose the real criminals and culprits playing havoc on the national interest and also on the working class. And through that only, I think, we'll be able to give, properly remember Comrade Suri's legacy and carry forward his uncompromising stance towards this in the working class movement, his contribution, his role of unify, as well as his role in confronting unitedly. Both together, that is his legacy. We can follow it, and through that only we can remember with due weightage, value, and respect Comrade Surya Narayan Rao, Comrade Surya Narayan Rao, Lal Salam, Comrade Surya Narayan Rao, Amar Rahe. Whole thing must not end with that only, and our working class movement at the state level and also at the national level must follow that line of defiance and resistance unitedly, along with the entire producing class of the society who creates value and others are having free lunch.